High up in the remote mountains of northern, nestled between steep rocky slopes and deep valleys, there lies a small village called Shimshul. For generations, the people of Shimshul lived a hard life. The land was dry and unforgiving. There was very little fertile soil. Water was scarce. Most families survived by keeping a few goats, growing meager crops during the short summer, and working as porters for mountain trekkers. It was known as one of the poorest villages in the entire region. Life was a daily struggle. Children walked for hours to reach a small school. Women carried water from a distant spring in heavy pots. During long winters, the village was often cut off from the world by snow and landslides. Young people left for cities in search of better opportunities. The elders watched their village slowly shrinking, year after year. Shimshul has no future. People in the nearby towns would say, "It's too high, too dry, too difficult. The soil is dead. The water is almost gone." The villagers themselves had accepted their fate. Many had given up hope. Some families had already sold their small plots of land and moved away. The once proud mountain community was quietly fading. But in 2018, one man refused to accept that his village was finished. His name was Karim Khan. Karim was 38 years old, a tall, strong, quiet man with weathered skin from years of working under the harsh mountain sun. Short black hair with a few gray strands, a thick but neatly trimmed beard, and deep, thoughtful eyes that carried both sadness and determination. He always wore a simple faded blue shower kameez, a warm brown woolen waistcoat, and sturdy mountain boots that had seen many rough trails. Karim had grown up in Shimshul. He knew every rock, every dry riverbed, and every hidden spring in these mountains. As a young man, he had worked as a high-altitude porter, carrying heavy loads for foreign trekkers. He had seen the outside world, but his heart always remained in his village. When he returned home after years of working away, he found Shimshul in even worse condition than before. The main spring that supplied water to the village had almost dried up. Fields that once grew barley and potatoes now produced almost nothing. Many houses stood empty. One cold autumn evening, Karim stood on a rocky slope above the village, looking down at the scattered houses and dry fields below. The wind howled through the mountains. He could see the worry on the faces of the remaining families. That night, something inside him changed. He remembered the old stories his grandfather used to tell, legends about hidden springs and rich minerals deep beneath the mountain. Most people dismissed them as fairy tales. But Karim couldn't stop thinking about them. What if there is still water down there, he thought. What if we just haven't looked in the right place? The very next morning, Karim made a decision that would change everything. He announced to the villagers that he was going to dig a new well, not a small one, but a deep one, right in the middle of the driest field. He said he would dig until he found water, no matter how long it took or how much it cost. The reaction was immediate and harsh. The villagers laughed at him. "Karim has gone mad," they said. "We have lived here for generations. If there was good water, we would have found it already." The elders warned him. "You will waste all your savings and end up with nothing but a deep hole in the ground." Even his own wife and mother begged him to stop. "We are already poor," they said. "Don't make us poorer." But Karim was determined. He sold the few goats he owned. He used all his savings from years of porter work. He borrowed a little money from a relative. Then he bought basic digging tools, pickaxes, shovels, ropes, and a few metal buckets. Alone at first, and later with just 2 young boys from the village who believed in him, Karim began digging. Day after day, from sunrise to sunset, he dug deeper into the hard, rocky ground. The work was backbreaking. His hands bled. His back ached. The mountain sun burned his skin. Every few feet, the soil became harder, mixed with stones and boulders. Weeks turned into months. The hole grew deeper, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. Still no sign of water. The villagers watched from a distance, shaking their heads. Some openly mocked him when he passed by. "Karim is digging his own grave," they joked bitterly. But every evening, no matter how tired he was, Karim would sit on the edge of the deepening well, look up at the stars, and whisper to himself, "There has to be something down there. I can feel it." Little did the people of Shimshul know that this one man's stubborn decision to dig a well in the poorest village in the mountains, was about to uncover something far more valuable than water, something that would change the destiny of the entire village forever. The digging continued for months, and with every passing day, the village's doubt grew stronger. Kareem Khan, 38-year-old mountain villager, tall and strong build, weathered skin, short black hair with a few gray strands, thick, neatly trimmed beard, deep, thoughtful eyes. Wearing a simple faded blue shower kameez, warm brown woolen waistcoat, and sturdy mountain boots, woke up before dawn every single day. His hands were covered in blisters and calluses. His back ached constantly from the endless labor. Yet he never missed a single day. By now the well was over 45 feet deep. The walls were reinforced with whatever wood and stones he could find. He and the two young boys who helped him had to use ropes and buckets to haul out heavy loads of rock and dirt. The work was dangerous. One wrong move, and the sides had collapsed. The villagers' mockery turned into open pity. Kareem has lost his mind, they said at the small tea shop. He is throwing away his life and his family's future on a foolish dream. Even the children started teasing him. Some elders stopped talking to him completely, believing he was bringing shame to the village by wasting money on an impossible task. Money was running out fast. Kareem had already spent almost everything he had. His wife worried about feeding the children. There were nights when the family went to bed with very little food. Still, Kareem refused to stop. One cold morning, when the well had reached nearly 60 feet, something unexpected happened. While breaking through a particularly hard layer of rock, Kareem's pickaxe struck something different. The sound was not the usual dull thud of stone. It was sharper, metallic. He paused, breathing heavily, sweat dripping from his forehead. He called the two boys over. Together they carefully cleared away the dirt and broken rock. What they saw made their hearts stop. Mixed with the wet mud at the bottom of the well were small, shiny yellow flakes and tiny nuggets that glittered even in the dim light of their lantern. It was gold, not just a trace. Real gold particles were coming up with the first signs of water. Kareem's hands trembled as he picked up a small piece and held it up to the light. The boys' eyes widened in disbelief. For a moment, none of them could speak. Word spread through the village like wildfire. At first, no one believed it. A group of skeptical elders and young men came to see for themselves. When they saw the glittering specks in the bucket of muddy water, their faces changed from doubt to shock. The poorest village in the mountains had gold beneath it, but Kareem did not celebrate loudly. He remained calm and thoughtful. He knew this discovery could either save the village or destroy it if not handled carefully. He immediately stopped digging further and called a village meeting. That evening, under the dim light of kerosene lamps in the old community hall, Kareem stood before the entire village. His faded blue shower kameez was covered in dirt, his face tired but steady. He spoke simply, "I did not dig for gold. I dug for water. But Allah has given us both. Now we have a choice. We can fight over this gold and become greedy like so many others, or we can use it wisely to bring water, electricity, schools, and a better future for all our children." Some villagers were excited and wanted to dig more wells immediately. Others were afraid. They had heard stories of big mining companies coming in and taking everything, leaving villages ruined. Kareem listened patiently to everyone. Then he made another bold decision. He proposed that the gold found in the well would belong to the entire village, not to him alone. He suggested forming a village committee to manage the discovery. No one would dig privately. Any further work would be done together, with proper safety and planning. Not everyone agreed at first. Greed and fear created arguments. But Kareem's quiet honesty and years of respect in the village slowly won people over. With the first small amount of gold, the village did something surprising. Instead of spending it on luxuries, they used it to buy better tools, hire a proper well engineer from the city, and bring in experts to test the water and the gold deposit safely. The engineer confirmed what Kareem had suspected. There was a significant underground water source, and the gold was coming from an ancient vein that had been pushed up by the mountain geology over thousands of years. It was not a massive fortune like big mines, but it was enough to change the life of a small village if managed properly. As news of the discovery slowly spread beyond the mountains, the village began to change. The first proper water started flowing from the well. For the first time in many years, Families had reliable drinking water closer to home. Fields that had been dry for decades began to show small patches of green as Kareem and others carefully channeled the water. Kareem continued working every day, but now he was no longer alone. More men from the village joined him. Women started bringing food for the workers. Children watched with wide eyes as their fathers dug alongside the man they once mocked. But with opportunity came new challenges. Outsiders began arriving. People from nearby towns, government officials, and even representatives from mining companies. Some offered large sums of money to buy the land. Others warned that the gold deposit might attract dangerous elements. Kareem stood firm. He protected the village's interests with the same stubborn determination he had shown while digging the well. As winter approached, the well had been deepened safely, and the first meaningful amount of gold was carefully extracted and sold through proper channels with the help of trusted experts. The money was used exactly as Kareem had suggested, for the village, not for any single person. For the first time in generations, there was real hope in Shimshul. The poorest village in the mountains was slowly waking up. Yet Kareem knew the real journey had only just begun. The gold and water had given them a chance. But whether the village would truly rise again would depend on how wisely they used this unexpected blessing. The discovery of gold mixed with water did not bring instant riches or happiness. Instead, it brought the greatest test the village of Shimshul had ever faced. Kareem Khan, 38-year-old mountain villager, tall and strong build, weathered skin, short black hair with a few gray strands, thick, neatly trimmed beard, deep, thoughtful eyes. Wearing a simple faded blue shower kameez, warm brown woolen waistcoat, and sturdy mountain boots, stood as a calm center in the middle of growing chaos. In the months that followed the discovery, the small village was transformed almost overnight from forgotten to famous. News traveled fast through the valleys and reached the cities. Journalists, government officials, mining company representatives, and curious outsiders began making the difficult journey up the steep mountain roads to Shimshul. Some came with genuine interest. Others came with greed in their eyes. Arguments broke out in the village. A few young men wanted to dig more wells immediately and sell as much gold as possible. Some families demanded that the gold should be divided equally among households. Others feared that if they dug too fast, the water source might dry up or the mountain might become unstable. Kareem listened to every voice patiently, night after night, in long village meetings held by lantern light. His voice remained steady and quiet, but his words carried weight. He reminded them again and again, this gold and this water are not just for us. They are a trust from Allah for our children and their children. If we become greedy, we will destroy what we have just found. If we are wise, this village can live for another 100 years. Slowly, his vision began to win. The villagers formed a proper committee with Kareem as the head. They decided 3 important rules. All gold extraction would be done carefully and slowly. A large portion of the money would be used for the village as a whole, water channels, electricity, school, and roads. No outsider mining company would be allowed to take control. With the first meaningful sale of gold, real change began. They brought engineers who helped build a proper concrete line well and a simple distribution system. Clean water now reached almost every house through gravity-fed pipes. For the first time in decades, women did not have to walk miles carrying heavy pots. Children had water to drink and wash with. Next came electricity. Small solar panels were installed on many houses, and a larger microhydro system was planned using the new water flow. In the evenings, the village that once sat in complete darkness now glowed with soft lights. Children could study at night. Families could charge phones and listen to the radio. The school was rebuilt and expanded. A new teacher was hired from the city. For the first time, girls attended classes regularly without fear of the long, dangerous walk. The fields that had been barren for years slowly turned green again. Kareem and the villagers carefully channeled the water to create irrigation channels. They planted new crops, potatoes, barley, apples, and even some vegetables that had never grown there before. Goats and sheep became healthier with better water. The once dry slopes began to show patches of green grass. But Kareem's greatest achievement was not just the physical changes. He focused on unity. He made sure that every family, even the poorest ones, received fair benefits. No one was left behind. He personally visited every house, listening to problems and finding solutions together. The village that once mocked him now looked at him with deep respect and love. The children called him Cha-Cha Kareem with affection. As the years passed, the revival grew stronger and more beautiful. Tourists and trekkers began coming, not just from mountains, but to see the miracle village where a man dug for water and found gold. Small goose houses were built using local stone and wood. Young people who had left years ago started returning because there were now jobs, opportunities, and hope. A proper road was gradually improved with the gold money. A small medical clinic was opened. A community shop was started where villagers could sell their produce and handicrafts. The village was no longer known as the Poorest in the mountains. It became known as Sonapani Jain, the village where gold came with water. Yet through all this success, Kareem remained the same humble man. He still wore his faded blue shower kameez and brown woolen waistcoat. He still woke up early to check the water flow and walk through the fields. He never took any special share of the gold for himself. His family lived in the same simple house. When journalists asked him why he didn't become rich personally, he smiled gently and said, "I was never digging for gold. I was digging for life. The gold was just Allah's way of helping us. My real wealth is seeing my village smile again." One golden autumn evening, many years after that first discovery, Kareem stood on the same rocky slope where he had once looked down at a dying village. The scene below was completely different. Green fields stretched across the slopes. Stone houses had new roofs and solar panels shining in the sun. Children played near the flowing water channels. Laughter and the sound of goats echoed through the valley. In the distance, a small group of tourists walked with local guides. Tears came to Kareem's deep, thoughtful eyes. He remembered the years of mockery, the bleeding hands, the nights of doubt, the fear that he might destroy his family. He remembered the day he first saw those tiny golden flakes in the muddy water. All the pain had been worth it. The poorest village in the mountains had not only survived, it had been reborn, because one man refused to accept that his home was finished, because one man chose to dig when everyone else had stopped hoping, because one man believed that even in the hardest rock, there could still be water and sometimes a little gold. As the sun set behind the majestic mountains, painting the sky in fiery orange and purple, Kareem whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. The wind carried his words across the revived fields and flowing streams. This was no longer just a story of gold and water. This was a story of faith, perseverance, wisdom,